Ever wondered why the United States is called the United States? It seems obvious now, but getting those original 13 colonies to actually unite was a surprisingly long and messy process. Let us rewind the clock and see why it took so long to go from a patchwork of British territories to the nation we know today. Back in the 1700s, there wasn't a single American identity. If you asked someone where they were from, they wouldn't say America. They'd say, "I'm a Virginian," or "I'm a New Yorker," or "I'm from Massachusetts." Each of the 13 colonies was like its own little country. They had their own governments, their own economies, and their own unique cultures. Think about it. A Puritan farmer in New England had very little in common with a wealthy plantation owner in South Carolina. Their daily lives, religious beliefs, and economic interests were worlds apart. The northern colonies, like Massachusetts and Pennsylvania, were built around small towns, trade, and family farms. The southern colonies, like Virginia and Georgia, had economies based on large plantations, growing cash crops like tobacco and cotton, which relied heavily on the labor of enslaved people. These fundamental economic differences created a lot of tension. They traded more with Britain and the West Indies than they did with each other. They were rivals, competing for land, resources, and influence. There was no real incentive to band together. In fact, they often squabbled over borders and trade. So what changed? The simple answer is a common enemy. After the French and Indian War ended in 1763, Great Britain was deep in debt. To pay it off, Parliament started imposing new taxes on the colonies, the Stamp Act, the Tea Act. You know the story. Suddenly, for the first time, all 13 colonies faced the same problem. This shared grievance, the idea of taxation without representation, was the spark that ignited the flame of unity. Leaders started communicating, sending letters and delegates back and forth. They formed the Continental Congress to coordinate a response to British policies. But even then, unity was fragile. During the Revolutionary War, the colonies were held together by a thread, the Articles of Confederation. This was the first attempt at a national government, but it was incredibly weak. It couldn't raise an army, couldn't levy taxes, and couldn't force the states to do anything. Each state acted like its own sovereign nation, and the country was on the verge of falling apart. Shays' Rebellion in 1786, where farmers rose up against crushing debt, was the final wake-up call. It proved the Articles weren't working. This crisis led to the Constitutional Convention in 1787. For 4 long hot months, delegates from the states argued, debated, and compromised. Big states fought with small states over representation. Northern states argued with southern states over the issue of slavery. It was a brutal process. The result was the U.S. Constitution, a brilliant but imperfect document that created a much stronger federal government while still preserving the power of the states. But even after the Constitution was written, it took another 3 years for all 13 original states to ratify it. Rhode Island was the last holdout, finally joining in 1790. So, from the first major stirrings of shared identity around 1765 to the final state joining the new government in 1790, it was a 25-year struggle, and the story doesn't end there. The country continued to grow and change. It took another 169 years until 1959. For the United States to reach its current form with the admission of Alaska and Hawaii as the 49th and 50th states, the journey from 13 rival colonies to a continental nation was long, difficult, and never guaranteed. It's a powerful reminder that unity is something that has to be built and maintained, not just declared. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. See you next time.